It's Walter Stewart, and I'm the building principal. At this time, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce our superintendent of schools, Dr. LaTanya M. Goffney, and she will be hosting and presenting for our Nimitz Vertical Bond meeting.
Let's give it up for our amazing principal here at Nimitz High School, Walter Stewart. Super excited about Mr. Stewart. We were in a meeting earlier and we were talking about the exciting things that different ones have planned for next week during our fall break. And the story that I know will resonate with those who are in the audience or those who are following us online is Mr. Stewart initially, because he didn't get to take the summer off, saved his time, and so he's going to be off with everyone else. And he scheduled a trip to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico sounds fun, doesn't it? Puerto Rico sounds fun, does it? Yes, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're celebrating that today. That was an awesome story. That could have been his good news. But no, Mr. Stewart said that he received a phone call a couple of nights ago, and the call was from his 2-year-old niece, FaceTime, and she said, "Uncle Walter, we want to come stay with you." So guess what your amazing principal did? He canceled his trip to Puerto Rico so that he could spend time with his 3 nieces and nephews. So listen, it got quiet in the room because I don't think anyone could have topped that. Puerto Rico, 3 nieces and nephews, but that shows you the power of the leadership that's in this place. So let's give it up again for Mr. Walter Stewart, your proud principal. Again, Nimitz is home. I live in the Nimitz Vertical. We also have one of our board members here, Ms. Rose Avalos. If you'll wave your hand, she also lives in this area as well. She's well known in the MacArthur area, but she actually lives in this area, and we're so grateful for her support tonight. But they didn't tell us, Ms. Avalos, that there's a pretty important game happening as they're preparing for homecoming next week. And everybody's like, yes, there is an alumni game that's happening next door. And so I'm hopeful that the right alumni win, and that after they've won, that they watch this video and get more informed so that they can participate in this process. Because I was excited to come over. Again, this is my home high school, and also it's a high school where my daughter graduated in 2022, and just excited about what's happening here at Nimitz High School. Nimitz is 5-0. Did y'all know that? 5-0. Listen. And so we definitely wanted those who are focusing on the game tomorrow night against Westfield to be focused. So I'm really thankful again for those who are here, the sacrifice of your time, and also those of you who are joining us online right now, and those of you who will join us online later. But we have some exciting things happening in Aldine ISD. Really proud and excited about, and I'm sure you've already heard about the bond, $1.8 billion that our board called in the August board meeting, and it's going to be on the November 7th ballot. And just want to tell you some information on how we got to where we are, and then also share with you some information about what's in store and what it includes and how you can help manifest it. So, long story short, it's hard to believe 2018 new soup, and came in and was really excited about the work. One of the first things that I was blessed to be able to do as a new soup was open up 6 schools and 2 replacement schools, so 8 schools total. It was such a blessing. It was a part of the 2015 bond, and it finished in 2018, and I got to kind of wrap it up. And I heard about the different phases of the bonds, and so it was important for me as I was coming in. I was looking, listening, and learning, and of course excited about the work that had already gone on. Just like everything else being new, you want to establish a baseline. We did all types of audits. We audited our transportation department. We audited had received an audit on the curriculum, audited technology, PEMS, financial audits. We did all kinds of audits just to establish a baseline of where we were, and of course how I could add value. And then, of course, hate to say that dreaded word, that C word, it kind of slowed us down a little bit, but we was able to get back immediately after when we called with an external facilitator who took us through what we call a facilities conditions assessment, as well as an educational suitability assessment. And so what that did was it looked at every single one of our facilities, every single one of our campuses, every single one of our departments and assigned a score to see where we were, how our building stacked up, so that we could make decisions on how we could best move forward. And it was in 2023 when it was completed, and earlier this year in January, and they came and they did a report for the board to say, okay, this is where your facilities are and condition-wise, and this is where your facilities are educationally. And so it was glaring that there were some real issues when we consider that 25% of our facilities were over 50 years old. In addition, if we were to address every single repair need, it would cost over $1 billion. And then in the next 10 years, it would be $2.7 billion. And so we recognized that we had a problem, and we needed to make sure that we had as many voices to help us come up with a solution. And so we launched a long-range planning committee, and it was led by 3 chairs. We had our Chief of Finance, Mr. Stan Osborne. We had our Chief of Operations, Mr. Fred Washington, as well as our Chief of Staff, Chief Reed, who chaired, and we went through 6 different meetings. There was about 60 people who were invited to participate in these meetings. I got to participate. I didn't lead. I didn't try to push what I thought should happen or push what I thought what was my vision. I literally got to listen and be a participant with everyone else. And we had all stakeholders, from parents to teachers to administrators, business leaders. We had a cross-section of all. And so while 60 was invited, we had about 40 who participated in most meetings, and then about 20 who were really consistent, and we were really proud of the work. And we asked them, we shared the facilities conditions assessment, we shared the educational suitability assessment, and we also shared demographic data, financial data. We looked at just everything that we could possibly look at. And we asked them to wish, to dream, and to share their dreams and hopes and aspirations for their children and what kind of facilities for the future. And of course, subtracting our new facilities, they thought, oh my gosh, can we just build all new facilities? Of course, that was a no. Number one, we cannot afford it. Number two, there has to be a strategy behind it. And so, long story short, after a lot of conversing and a lot of looking at and analyzing and group work and reports out, they focused on 3 areas. Number 1, safety and security. Number 2, facility enhancements. And number 3, of course, was technology improvements. And so when we think about safety and security, one of the things I know you've heard a lot about safety and security with recent bills that have come out, and they were unfunded mandates. And you probably heard about some exciting things that certain districts are doing as it relates to safety and security. And the way they're able to do it is mostly through bond funds, like this bond opportunity that we have today. And so as we think about what can we do, because let me tell you, we have the best, literally, and I'm not just saying that because he's sitting on the front row paying close attention, but we have the best chief of police this side of heaven now. I've moved from the best in the region and the best in the state and the best in the country to the best on this side, because he does an exceptional job. He has an incredible team. We have amazing police officers who work hard to connect with our students, and we're really proud of the work that they do. But we also recognize that we can be more strategic in that work, because our police officers not only keep our students and teachers safe, but they protect and serve our entire community. And so when we think about my previous district, our police department worked normal work and business hours. And in the evenings, if there was an issue, of course, they were called out to address it. But our police department staffs overnight. And those overnight calls are to protect our community. And so we feel like that them being more centrally located in our district, because we're 111 square miles, so if we have a police department that's more centrally located, then they'll be able to do even more work and provide even more safety for our district. In addition to the safety and security of centralizing our police department, we want to put up more safety film. We want to do more, put up more provide more safety features, whether it's the notification system, whether it's additional fencing, and all of those different things that you'll see on the sheets that for Nimitz High School, or as well as any of the campuses in our district. In addition to safety and security, of course, you'll see facilities enhancements, and that's probably the largest portion. And facilities enhancements includes HVAC, it includes plumbing, and includes mechanical and some of the things that you can't see, but the things that you will see are new builds, rebuilds, redesigns, whether it is MacArthur High School or Carver High School, and we're going to walk you through them. But the one that I am most excited about is our Education and Performing Arts Center. Those of you who are in the room, you see our Executive Director, Refugio. He's in the house. Refugio Rodriguez, if you'll wave your hand, Refugio, give him a round of applause. Listen. We were blessed to have our students perform in front of 6,000 superintendents and school board members from across the state. And when I tell you they did an exceptional job, please go online at Aldine ISD on Facebook and watch the performance, and you'll see why I'm so excited about this particular building. And I realize that this building is a dream. The Education and Performing Arts Center is a dream that started years ago before I even arrived. And so we have included it as an option this time. And let me tell you why. As you consider, we have over 59,000 kids, and of those, 50,000 of our kids participate in some type of performance, visual arts in our district. So when you think about that, and you think about the opportunity to not only use their creative outlets, but also to be prepared with lighting and sound and acoustics and all the different things that come along with being a creative, I think we owe it to them to provide them with those types of experiences. And I know I felt it, because this week we also had a Region 4 superintendent's meeting, and that meeting was held in a neighboring district, Cy-Fair. And they had their Performing Arts Center, and when you walked in, they had curated art from K through 12, and you could see it in a nice, it's just amazing. It was like you were visiting a museum or something. And then when you walked into the rooms where the dancers were going to perform, and you had this beautiful stage, and you had mirrors everywhere, and it was just amazing. And then when you walked into the area in which the students could perform, it was something to behold. And it's not about just a beautiful building, it's about the level of preparation. Because we have amazing students, amazing kids who are doing amazing things. They're graduating and winning all kinds of awards. But there's also another opportunity, because Refugio, in order to get them to that level, he has to rent out facilities and go and take our kids to other areas in which they can have appropriate sound and acoustics and all that. Because we love MOC. Our kids perform well over in MOC, but the fact of the matter is MOC is a gym. And so this will be an opportunity not only for our students to get the preparation they need to compete as they do, but also an opportunity too for us to be able to share the amazing performances, because typically our kids have to perform in a gym, or they have to perform in a cafeteria, and even our parents don't fully get to see the level of excellence that our students exhibit. So I'm really excited about that facilities enhancement. Of course, the third one is instructional technology, and we recognize that COVID, it did a lot. I literally have COVID flashbacks when I think about it. But there was one thing about COVID that if you had to say was a positive, or making lemon out of lemonade, or taking lemons and making lemonade, however you say it. But the one positive thing that came out of it is we were able to go one-to-one with devices. So every single one of our kids have devices. We also, as part of that, our teachers and everyone got devices, and we're really proud of that work. But as we think about it, though, we recognize that they don't last long. You know, technology is changing all the time. And so we've got to be prepared if we want our students to be future ready. And so I want to, at this time, turn it over to our Chief of Staff, Shalia Reed, who's going to walk you through the propositions, and I'm sure she'll call on Mr. Washington to assist as well.
Thank you, Dr. Goffney. It is strange standing here and you guys are out there, but I do understand that we're also recording, so I'll tell you that. I'll also say that, Mr. Stewart, your good news today was mind-boggling. I think I'd be in Puerto Rico. And so can I take your trip and you could take my two with y'all? Y'all can have a good time. So as Dr. Goffney mentioned, our long-range planning committee had an opportunity over the course of those meetings to learn where the district was going, projects we were working on, things we dreamed about and hoped for. And we actually asked them at the same time to share their feedback, give us ideas, things that they dream and wish for. And if you are watching online, you may not have seen, but I do have two little special guests with me. One of them is a 4-year-old. And my 4-year-old has learned how to use Amazon. And I don't know how this happened, but he also can point out and tell me that the Amazon truck is gonna bring him a package. So to help avoid ending up with several packages at my door that I didn't pay for, or even a jacuzzi or a pool, we have now learned that you use the heart tool on Amazon to create a list for Santa Claus. And as you can imagine, his list to Santa Claus is quite long, and it includes Crocs, some socks, he has lots of toys, an iPad, like technology Dr. Goffney mentioned. And very similar to his list is the way our long-range planning committee, they were hearting quite a few things. We gave them the ability to like whatever they wanted. We said, dream, tell us what you want. Tell us what do you think would add to Aldine? What do you think would help our students, not just now, but in the next 20, 30, 40 years? And their list was long, like Aldine's list to Santa Claus. We covered the boardroom. And there was everything from 84 brand new campuses to a new police department, shields for our police department, a family and community engagement room at every campus, sidewalks, safety and security features. Like I mentioned, the list was long, and rightfully so. We gave them the ability to do it and said there was nothing to hold us back. Well, you know that Santa's list that Alden's gonna get, he doesn't have empty pockets, right? Santa balls on a budget, okay? Very similar to Aldine, we had to narrow down that list, and Dr. Goffney mentioned, we narrowed it down in those 3 buckets. So every project that we presented as part of the bond package fits in one of those buckets. And as you are seeing here, we are looking at 3 propositions. And I wanna remind you that in 2019, the state of Texas changed the way bonds are done. No longer do you put it all in one basket and send it to the voters and say, please vote for all of these things. Instead, you are required to be transparent and to give them information. And so that is why on the ballot there are three propositions that make up our entire school bond package. Our first proposition is Proposition A, and it includes most of the things. It's kind of the biggest bucket. Proposition B is instructional technology, and Dr. Goffney mentioned we want to make sure that over the next 10 years we have access to the tools and features needed to educate and learn. And then Proposition C, what I'm belovedly calling the EdPAC, the Education and Performance Center, is designed for our students who are in the arts. We have quite a few students who are in the arts, and we want to make sure that they can stand under bright lights like this and use the microphone and the acoustics to bounce off the walls and make their true talents and art come to life. Alex, do you mind if I go through A? Okay. So Proposition A includes campus rebuilds, but don't go too far. Campus rebuilds, there are 6 of them listed. Carver High School, Aldine High School, Aldine Middle, Hambrick, Orange Grove, and Odom. And using those rebuilds, I want to make sure you understand that is a complete fresh start. We are going to imagine if you were building a home and you went to pick your plot of land, you just start fresh from the ground. Now we'll work to honor some of the features that were done in the last bond, but for the most part, we are starting on a very clean slate and building a school to meet the needs of students who are in the 22nd century. A campus redesign is very similar. However, the difference is we're using the studs of the building, the infrastructure, the bones as guiding posts, and then can be rebuilt from there. I'll tell you, we live in an older home, and in the last month or so, we have had to have quite a few repairs. A hot water heater falls from the ceiling, the ceiling ends up on the floor. I told my husband, I'm ready to go. Let's just move. We don't need to replace the hot water heater. Let's go. Let's buy a new house. He said, you don't do that. You fix it, right? Well, the next day, the other hot water heater on the other side of the house decided it was time for it to go as well. And I looked at him and said, it's time. Well, no, we're just gonna fix it. Like my house, you need to decide, is it best to fix and pour into, or do you just pick up and go? And so some of these projects that we'll list out, especially in the life cycle, roofs and plumbing, there's an opportunity to just fix and replace, and you still have a good house. You don't have to pick up and move like me. But in a campus redesign, you are using those good bones and really reimagining how you can use the facility. So one example that we've been using is that Eisenhower High School is facing what I have learned is Eagle Way. And Eagle Way faces some apartments. Beautiful, not like this where you see this facing the front of a major artery. Instead, it's facing to the side. And so when you come in, if you could get lost, but it is facing that way. We believe that there's an opportunity for us to use the bones and turn the building to face Antoine, which is the artery through that area. So that's the way a redesign and a rebuild are separate and very similar. Think about where MacArthur is located. We could pull that building back or turn it or face it differently, but again, using the bones that are already there. One of the things about our bond, and although we're doing propositions and you can see 8 schools listed here, every single campus will be impacted. One of the ways we will do that is to add digital marquees to the campus. If you look and past some of our buildings, oh, you're clapping for that. Okay, good. If the wind blows, some of the letters may come down, or there's not an opportunity to get out and replace them. But it is also a safety feature. You can quickly change what is listed there from a centralized location, and everyone has the same message. So a digital marquee, I mentioned those life cycle replacements, science lab improvements. Dr. Goffney mentioned that many of our schools are 25% or 50 years or older. The science that the students are learning now needs additional resources and tools, and we want to make sure those buildings are updated. The athletic improvements, a great opportunity that we learned is that you can utilize the resources in this proposition to take care of athletic improvements at locations that are less than 1,000 seats. So expanding a gymnasium, adding a turf field here, where students are not, we're not inviting 1,000 or so spectators, you have an opportunity to do so. So we are using those resources across the district at other facilities, tennis courts and those kind of things. Safety and security, Dr. Goffney mentioned many of these, but a dedicated police department, emergency notification system. We have a tool that now allows us to quickly notify the police department should there be any escalated emergencies. Additional safety film, site fencing and lighting, and then also emergency generators. Now, we've talked a lot about technology, and we all are utilizing technology without us even knowing it anymore. If you counted how many tools you have on you, you could quickly get to 3, 4 very, very fast. We want to make sure that the Wi-Fi systems, that network structure at all of our facilities are able to support the instructional tools and the ways we are communicating with technology. So that's listed there. And then that facility assessment identified one location that was a red dot. You must do something now, and that is the East Transportation Facility. And so it is part of a rebuild and will be rebuilt. We will also use the money to purchase buses and additional white fleet. That is Prop A. Prop B will explain the instructional technology. So over the next 10 years, we want to have a bucket of money where we can utilized just for instructional technology. And that includes anything from classroom to staff and student devices. Prop C is the Ed Pack, and it will be located, or we're planning for it to be located just north of Thorne. There's a plot of land that has been set aside, and we utilize it there to give students and staff and community members access to this education and performance center that is centrally located. You are all sitting in theater seats, right? And Mr. Stewart is here, and I can imagine that the schools that feed into him love to come to Big Nimitz to perform on these stages. So a student at Ogden, a student at Dunn, who are in the arts, they want to come here and have their parents see them. Unfortunately, and fortunately, but because we have so many students utilizing our fine arts programs, there is limited access to this building. Mr. Stewart has plenty of programs that are happening in this building. So we believe that the Education Performance Center not only gives our students opportunity to perform under the right lights with the right acoustics, but also gives the community a way to see them in the right spirit and the right place. And so this would be located, as I mentioned, just north, not one auditorium, but several auditoriums, along with classrooms and other spaces that would be designed to support the students as they're performing and learning. So those are the three. The way it works is that voters have these three options placed in front of them. To get to 1.8, they must vote yes to all of them. So if someone, or there's a group, a large population in Prop B does not pass, then we cannot use the money in Prop A or Prop C to take care of Prop B. It's just not a project we'll be able to move forward with. So for voters to get to the 1.8 that you'll hear us talking about, it's really broken into those three propositions, and each one shows up on the ballot separately. Now, this amount, how do you get there? How do you get there? So our long-range planning committee had this opportunity to dream and wish, but we also have a finance team that helped us understand, well, there's not a bucket of money you just get it from. You actually have to come up with a system and way to do that. And so I'm going to ask Ms. Alexia Rogers to join us to explain how this large, how a small increase will impact the district in a large way.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Alexia Rogers. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance. And I just wanted to share for just a couple of minutes with you how the funds will be worked out. And as we know, $1.8 billion is a lot of money. I apologize for my voice. I've got some issues with allergies right now. But anyway, yes, $1.8 billion is a lot of money. So how is that going to be handled? And how is that going to affect the taxpayers within Aldine? So as you may know, it would really work very similar to how any of us would need to borrow money for a large purchase. So if you or I wanted to go and buy a car or buy a house, we would go and get a loan and pay it back over time. So what the district is going to do is very similar to that, except we aren't getting a loan, but we'll be selling bonds. And there are large corporations out there that buy bonds, and then they earn interest on those bonds, and so that's why it's attractive for them to do that. So essentially, the question of why we even need to do this in the first place is the money that the district receives from the state of Texas and also from the maintenance and operating taxes that we rely on from our taxpayers is not enough to cover these large types of projects. It's really only enough to cover the regular day-to-day operations of the business, of the district, paying salaries, paying utilities, all of that type of thing. These types of large projects have to be done with the sale of bonds and the collection of taxes. So for taxpayers within Aldine, their tax rate is made up of two different rates. One rate is the operations rate, which I already explained is to cover the day-to-day operations, and one rate is the debt rate. And the funds that we collect off the debt rate will go back to pay down these bonds. So our current rate, and the rate that we've had for about the last 5 years, is right here at 30 cents. So what that means is for every $100 of value in your homeowner or in your property, you pay 30 cents on that amount for your assessed value. So the way that we've restructured these bonds is that for the first 3 years, there will be no increase at all in this rate. And we're able to do that because we've been paying down old bonds, and we've restructured the loans to where we're not going to be able to have to make the additional payments early on. So there should be no change in that debt rate for the first 3 years. After 3 years, starting in 2026, it will go up about 2 cents. And it could go up about 2 cents or 1.5 cents over the next several years, resulting in possibly a 10% increase by the time 10 years have passed. And then after 10 years, we'll begin paying that rate back down. So it's been restructured in this way on purpose so that there wouldn't be a huge impact to the taxpayers in our district. You can move to the next one. A couple things I also wanted to comment on is just to remind everybody that every campus and every student is going to be touched by the projects that we're doing. Not all, like has already been mentioned, not all of the campuses are going to be rebuilt, but between the technology, the Performing Arts Center, all of the students in Aldine are going to experience the improvements that will be happening with this bond. The other comment I wanted to make is that the homestead exemption has increased from $40,000 to $100,000. What that means to our taxpayers is that if our taxpayers' home has an assessed value of $100,000 or less, that means they will pay no taxes. And that's going to be a big impact for some of our taxpayers in our district. So they will see no effect on their taxes at all. If any of our taxpayers are 65 or older and they have filed for their deferment, they also will see no increase in any of their taxes. So there are certain populations that we just want to ensure that they know that they're not going to feel the brunt of this. We also have a large amount in our district that is commercial properties, so they also will be covering some of this bond. It's not going to be only on the backs of our residents and our families. So I just wanted to make sure and also emphasize again that for the first 3 years, there's not going to be any increase in that debt tax rate. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lexi. So as you can see, we have quite a bit of information to share, and if you're sitting here or listening once, you won't get it all today. And so we encourage you to either tune in or join us at one of the community meetings. We have one more left at Carver High School on October 25th. But this doesn't mean this is the last time you'll see or hear information. We also are talking to many of the community civic groups, clubs, organizations at open houses, and also have information on our district website. And I'll share a little bit more about that. I do want to point out that early voting begins on October 23rd and lasts through November 3rd, and also Election Day is November 7th. But the key is, this information is only applicable if you live in the Aldine boundaries and if you're registered to vote. And so voting registration ends on November 10th. There's still October 10th. There's still time for you to register if you're not registered. And then on November 7th or October 23rd through November 3rd, you can go to the polls. And if you're informed or need more information, you can get it before then. As I mentioned, our information is on our website at aldineisd.org/bond2023. That is going to end our presentation. So we have a video that we'd like to share. So you've heard us. We've kind of gone into detail. Mr. Washington is still here, able to answer questions. But before we do that, we know that you kind of also need it in a short, simple way. So we asked one of the students who is a future Nimitz grad, she's over at Dunn Elementary, to help us put it together in the best, shortest way possible. And so at the end of this video, we'll all be here, and if you have questions, come down and we'll answer them for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing Aldine, and we look forward to getting to know you.
Aldine ISD is committed to providing choices and opportunities for students just like me. It's the last years of Aldine's 5-year strategic plan, a new way forward, and we've made a lot of progress. It is important that we keep moving forward so that more students can benefit from the work that is being done right now. As my uncle always says, there's always more to do. Then, someone in my family always asks the same question. How much is it going to cost? Well, some of the work in Aldine that needs to happen requires a voter-approved school bond to cover the cost. I bet you are thinking, what is a school bond? School districts in Texas only receive funds for daily operations. Things like construction, fixing buildings, and buying new technology aren't always covered in the regular budget. That's where a school bond comes in. A group of Aldine community members met a whole bunch of times to figure out what was needed and what the district could actually afford. They looked at data, heard from presenters, asked a lot of questions. Then, they decided that it was best to focus on 3 super important things that create the kind of learning environments needed, so we can focus on what's really important, learning. First up, safety and security. Police officers are real-life superheroes, but they can do it alone. We're adding basic things like stronger fences and more lights. There are more fancier safety systems too. They all go a long way when it comes to safety. And then there are facility enhancements. We have some older schools that need to be brought up to the same standards as the newer ones. And finally, instructional technology. Haven't you heard? Technology has changed the classrooms. There are some really cool new tools and apps that take learning to another level. Of course, there are more details. I could go on and on, but we don't have a lot of time. The bottom line, our Board of Trustees agreed with the community members and added a school bond to the November 7 ballot. All that's left for you to do, get out there and vote on Tuesday, November 7th. In case you need more information, we've packaged it all up at aldineisd.org/bond2023.